Welcome everybody. It's so nice to see everyone. Got some more people trickling in, but we'll go and get started. Have a seat on your mat. Cross your shins one in front of the other. Place your hands on your thighs, not on the knee itself, but on the thigh muscle and bone. Press your hands down, lift your chest up, head up. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Take another nice deep breath in, press your hands down again. When you lift your chest up, take that deep inhale. And when you exhale, draw your back ribs in. Stretch your side rib forward and lift your front ribs up. And drop your shoulders. So you're lifting the rib cage, not pushing it out, manipulating the spine, but the back muscle that holds your side body up. And just let your eyes close for a minute. Try to keep the ribs lifted, but not hold tension in your shoulder and neck. As you let the eyes close, kind of find your breath. Identify the qualities of your breath. Is it fast, slow, hard, soft, angry, sad, however you describe it. But just identify where you're starting at. Because even though we can intellectually tell ourselves all sorts of things about how we're doing, what's going on inside, right? Yoga is an internal practice. And the breath is always our real measure of that. So what are you coming onto your yoga mat with? And whatever it is, it's welcome here. Because as I've always said, yoga is not about punishing or beating yourself up for not being flexible or strong or balanced or all those things that we might associate with yoga. But yoga is a guide set to help you make what you want for yourself. And so you can do the things you want to do infinitely more. So as we begin, recognize where you're starting, my friends. So we have a clear, you have at least the starting point to where you want to go. And that the things that may come up may be stuff that you've been carrying around for a while, whether it's a body ache, a mental thing, whatever it is. Try not to push it away. But remember, when you're with your teacher, that is the time to ask questions. That's the time to get into the stuff that you don't know about. So you can continue to do the best for you as you go through. Bring the palms together at the chest, thumbs touching the sternum. We'll om shortly 3 times and then begin. Take a breath. Om. 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 Bow your head for a moment and salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. And if you don't know what that may be, you don't have your own saying, phrase, line, limerick, or song, may I offer that your life is never stuck, static, or stale. That we move in the ever flow of it all. Bring your hands into your lap, let your head rise, and your eyes open. Nice, more people came in. It's always nice to see everybody. Good. So let's go ahead and stand on up. Come to a standing position called Tadasana, where your thighs together, feet together. Because we don't have our normal demo person here, Tristan's taking the night off, I'll pare down the instructions so it's a little more reasonable. But Tadasana, thighs touching as best you can, feet touching as best you can, heels touching. The arms down alongside the body, pressing down through the feet. Instead of shrugging the shoulders back, draw your shoulders wide. So from the inner shoulder near the neck, you're widening from the collarbone, the top to the tip, and even on the back side out. So your chin stays lifted. Without looking down, as best you can, lift all 10 toes up off the floor. Feel the shift of your body weight front to back of your foot. Try to keep it even. So now that your weight is in your heel, you have to flex your thighs a little bit to keep your 5 front joints down on the floor. Without looking down, place your big toe on the floor and keep all the other toes up. Kind of check with your balance, check with your legs. Pick your big toes up, place your pinky toes on the floor. Try not to let your legs fall apart. Keep active in Tadasana. So as you manipulate and move the toes here, you start to actually work different muscles in the ankle, the arch, the rest of the leg. You also start to have to focus on what you're doing with your body. Regardless of what you're coming onto your yoga mat with tonight, it's kind of hard to worry about it when you're just wiggling your toes. Pick all 10 toes up. Still moving the shoulders wide and down, not back. All 3 sections across the collarbone, across the shoulder blade, and from neck to tip of shoulder, extending out. Place your big toe and pinky toe on the floor, trying to keep your middle 3 lifted as best you can. Then notice how your hands are gripping. You might start pushing the tongue to the roof of your mouth. All the old habits of having to try. Let those areas relax so you can stay active in your focus on your feet, the legs, and the shoulder. Keep working with your toes. Stretch both arms out in front of you, palm facing palm. Interlace your fingers and turn your palms out. Pinky touching pinky, thumb touching thumb. And exhale, lift up both arms as best you can, Padaglasana. When you lift the arms up, try not to let the head and neck come down, but lift from your side ribs to the armpit, up through the wrist. So you're trying to almost lift your rib cage up away from the hips. Not even almost, you actually are by doing this. And breathe into that. And then notice what happened to your toes. For a lot of us, they all came down. Do the best you can to stay connected to the action through the arms and through the legs. This is how you make what would be considered simple poses in yoga much more complex or advanced, not adding more bends or torques to it, but can you still maintain all the work you were doing before as you add to this? Can you start taking away tension or other things that aren't what you want and only put it into this work? All the energy you might be spending on worry, spend it on your big toe. Turn your palms down, bring your hands out in front of you, and then change the lacing of your fingers, because one set of fingers is always stacked on the other. Here, my right's on my left. Change it so the left is on the right, or vice versa for you. Palms out, arms up. And then it might be opposite or feel weird, but then you still have to work the legs. Lift from the side body. Keep your head and chin up. Don't let your chin come down into your throat. And breathe. Then check in with your toes. Check in with your legs. And breathe. Feel what your body is going through now. Very nice. Take a nice deep breath in, bring the arms down. As you exhale, pick your right knee up in front of you so your right knee is the height of your hip. Feel free to use a wall, a chair, anything you need for balance so you can work with the pose in your body instead of fighting it, right? You do not have to, just FYI, you do not have to still work your left toes in the same way. You can let your left toes lay on the floor, but let your left leg be strong, not just straight, but can you push through the foot equally? Can you use some of the things that helped your balance in Tadasana in this pose? Then take one arm up of your choice, but when you take whichever arm that is up, lift that side body, feel that length. And then notice the side without the arm up kind of wants to tilt down. You have to lift the ribs equally, even though one arm is up. Can you lift both sides of your rib cage up? And then when you're ready, if you want, if you can maintain balance without a prop to help, without your hand, take both arms up. And then notice how the right leg wants to come down, or the left hip wants to sway. Keep your left leg coming under you and pushing through the floor so your body may lift off of it. And then get comfortable in the movement, in the wobble. Falling out of a pose may not feel good or fun, but it happens. And remember, everything living moves. The only thing that's perfectly still is a corpse. And we're all living, vibrant beings. As best you can, if you can keep your arms up, great. Take your right foot back behind you, even if your foot touches a wall or something, trying to bring your knees together and bending your right heel towards your hip. So the right foot is not far back behind you. You're very simply just squeezing the thighs together. So from here to this. Yeah. Just a modified Lord Naharaj. And as best you can, pick bending the right knee, bring the right heel as close to your hip as you can. If you point the foot, you might give yourself a hamstring cramp. I'm happy for you. A few more seconds. If you can have one arm up or both arms up, be sure to lift both sides of your rib cage. Make your left leg push through the floor to lift you tall. All right, take your right leg out in front of you one last time, almost done. Take your right ankle across your left thigh in a modified tree pose. So the right ankle is above, not on top of the knee, but just above it. Push the ankle into the thigh a little bit. Let the right hip open, the right knee open to the side, and then go for lift. Push through the left leg. Make the left leg, like Tadasana, work to lift the body. Take a nice deep breath in, bring your arms down, leg down. Nice. Thighs together, feet together in Tadasana, please. Reset back to where you were. And so just in Tadasana, the shoulders moving wide, feet coming together, calf coming together, thighs squeezing in. Just looking outward. Take a breath and kind of feel the difference one side of your body than the other. Take in what half of the work feels like. On your exhale, pick your left knee up in front of you. Knee about the height of your hip. And then feel how your right leg wanted to bend or the hip wanted to swing out. Recreate Tadasana with just the right leg so it's lifting you. Take one arm up, lift the ribs on both sides, and then if you can, take both arms up from a balance point. Let's do so. On an exhale, take your left foot back behind you, not putting it on the floor, but just to bring the knees together and bend that left knee so that heel comes up towards your hip as high as you can. Then, once you've got your balance, if you brought your arms down, one and then maybe both up, and go for lift. Take your left leg out in front of you. Take your left ankle across the right thigh. Remember, above, not on top of the kneecap. Let the left thigh open up out to the side. Press the ankle into the thigh, and you might have to push your right thigh into the ankle a little bit to help hold it in place, and then stretch both arms up, or one if you need one for balance, of course. Good. Take a nice deep breath in. Bring the arms down, leg down. Very nice. Good job. You made it. If you have an empty wall spot in your home or wherever you are, or a chair you can put your foot up on for this next pose, I would find that spot now. So you're going to turn and face, I'm going to describe it from a wall, but if you don't have a wall to put your foot up on, you can put it on a chair, the seat of, or the back of a chair, as long as it's stable. Turn and face the wall and stand about 2.5 to 3 foot from the wall in Tadasana. And then pick your right knee up in front of you, about the height of your hip. And then try to place your right foot on the wall, the height of your hip, with the leg slightly bent. Again, it can be up on a chair if that's what you need to use, because you're not using a wall. Straight leg up on the chair there, Glenda. Put that right foot up there and straighten the leg out. Yeah, just like that. Before we go too much further, with your right knee slightly bent, because we're not worried about the overextension of the knee, take a look at your left foot and make sure your left toes are pointing the same direction as your body is facing. The tendency when we're tight in the hip is to turn the toes out, keep them pointed forward. From there, go ahead and bend your right knee and take your fingertips onto the wall and climb the wall as high as you can. If you're using a chair, you reach for the back of the chair and you stretch your arms a little past it. So you're really looking to extend the upper body with a bent right knee. This isn't about stretching the hamstring. This is about doing it from a bent knee to open the hip. Good. Lift the ribs, climb the fingers up, and long as you can, you're trying to lift the upper body and extend it. So here in Padangusthasana, instead of trying to force the right leg straight to force the hamstring stretch, the challenge is always, can you push through the left foot to lift your spine up taller? Because then that will make the left hip work, the hip extenders, and the right hamstring is still going to work, but it's not the main point to force that hamstring. It's about lift and extension of the upper body, so that when we twist or bend or whatnot, the spine has room to move. Bring your hands down about the height of your shoulders. And then for those of you that really want to straighten your right leg, straighten the right leg, pushing the foot into the wall, still pushing the left foot into the floor. So your right hip moves back, but keeping both hands on the wall. So it's a little bit of a forward fold to this, because the final form of Padangusthasana is your lifted leg is way up in the air and you're holding it with your arms, not just straight out in front of you, but way up in there. It's quite a challenging pose. And hold for a few more moments, grab a couple deep breaths. Thank you for getting a chair for yourself. Good modification. All right, bend the right knee. Take your left hand onto the wall to where your right hand is, so it's moving across. Take your right arm straight up, stretching the right ribs nice and high, and then twist, turning your ribs to the right, and then stretching your right hand back behind you any degree you can, with your right foot still on the wall. The right leg can be straight or bent as your practice dictates, but if it is straight, make sure your left hip is not falling forward towards the wall. Keep your left hip heel stacked. This may make it harder to twist, but it will make your back twist more instead of just your hip and lower lumbar. All right, bend the knee, exhale, come on out. Well done. Back to Tadasana, please. Thighs together, feet together. Kind of take a breath or two, check in, feel what difference one side to the other. We're going to do the other leg, so you don't have to go too far from your yoga mat. All right, take a breath in, and on the exhale, pick your left foot up onto the wall. Stretch that leg out, Padagonstasana. It's a very useful pose if we sit a lot during the day. It will make your hip extenders work, the outer muscles of your hip. It will challenge even your back muscle to have to lift and extend. And of course, the hamstrings, which you can all feel. It also strengthens the balance of our legs, which if we sit too much, it's easy to lose. Nice. Bend your left knee, take your hands up the wall as high as you can. If you're using a chair, you stretch past the back of the chair with your arms. But it is about the knee being bent, because the bent knee will put the bone of your hip or bone of your leg into your hip better. Start to release the lower back. And remember, take a look at your right foot before you get too extended in it. And if your right toes are not pointing forward the direction your body is going, it's not going to work as efficiently in your hip. And it can tend to actually cause some irritation in some people's with arthritis in their hip joint. It's going to feel weird when your hip is that tight and you have to point your toes forward. That's normal. Bring your hands down about the height of your shoulders. Straighten your left leg, but keeping your hands on the shoulders so you have to extend the upper body, still lifting the chest. And the left leg doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but you're creating some level of extension, right? There's no such thing as perfectly straight. You're just engaging the legs to be long. Take a nice deep breath in. Bend your left knee just a little. Take the tension out of the knee. Take your left arm straight up to the sky. Stretch nice and long through the rib cage, just like we did in Tadasana or Hastasana. Twist to your left, rotating the left ribs, keeping your left foot on the wall. Stretch your left arm back behind you, as far as you can reach it. And then if your left leg is straight, be sure to check, make sure your right hip did not roll forward towards the wall. Hip stays above the heel. Few more seconds. Take a nice deep breath in, bend the knees, step your foot down. Well done. Turn your right side to the wall or chair. You'll still be about 2 foot from the wall, but with your right side towards that wall. Excuse me. Pick your right foot up in front of you and put your right foot on the wall to your right, toes pointing straight up. Turn your right side to the wall, Pratima. Turn your right side to the wall and then put your foot up on it. There you go, friend. Yeah, you got it. So your left toes should be not pointing at the wall where your foot is. They're turned out to the side a little. Everyone's good there. Everyone bend your right knee and take your right hand for the wall, a little higher than your shoulders, fine. Your left hand on your hip and lean your upper body back, flex your thighs, flex your glutes, and bring your hips forward a little bit. So you're not leaning your chest forward and your butt sticking back. You're trying to stack your chest above your hips and bring your hips forward. This is challenging to do if we're tight in the hip, groin, lower back. That's why we bend the knee to this degree. So right hand on the wall about the height of your shoulder. The reason I don't want it on your knee is I don't want you to kind of slouch in your ribs or your neck, because when you have your hand and arm up, you have to lift from your rib cage. Now, for those of you that would like more stretch, more intensity to this, keeping your right hand on the wall, slowly lengthen your right leg, straightening it out a little bit more. But when you do so, roll the left ribs back, pick your upper body up, and notice the tendency to drop the head and shoulders down. Like this helps our hamstrings. Keep your chin and head up to start countering the effect of tight hips and back on your shoulder and neck. I don't think any of us want to be like, hunched over in the later years. Nice. Bend the right knee fairly deeply so you can reach your left hand and touch the wall, about the same height as your right. Doesn't matter how deep the knee is bent to do so. But the stretch of having to reach across with your left hand, now slowly, just even a little, start to straighten that right leg, but do not let your left hand come off the wall. The left hand stays on the wall the whole time. This is about extending that left side body. If you want more stretch, you slide your left hand higher up the wall as you straighten that right leg. So similar to triangle or some of those other standing lateral extensions, you extend the upper body away from the hips and legs once they're stable, or the back opens. Padagonstasana 2, as Mr. Unger would say. Take a nice breath. Exhale, bring your leg down, arms down. Woo. Next side. Turn your left side to the wall, please. Take your left foot up. Left hand will go on the wall about the height of your shoulder, maybe a little higher. But start with your knee bent. Don't feel like, even though you might be very practiced, something about resetting your hips with a bent knee that helps. If you lock the knee, you lock up certain muscles in your hip and low back. So start with your left knee bent, lift your chest up, roll your right ribs back, bring your hips forward just a hair, so that at no point you feel like your chest is being tilted forward in this pose. And then if you want more stretch, then you straighten the leg. But then it's always the challenge of moving your right hip and ribs back, lifting your chest up and back, not just shoving your shoulders. It's not about backward bending it, but can you bring your whole upper body back like you're going to let your upper torso weight be in your hips? There you go, Pratima, very good. Easier to hold your head up that way, much better. And just even holding this extension with the arm reaching and the knee a little bent trains the lateral muscles of the chest and the lateral muscles of the ribs and the chest to open and extend, taking pressure off of gravity pressure off of the ribs and off of the heart. Also makes it easier to take a breath if you do so. A few more seconds. Bend your left knee a little bit. Take your right hand, reach for the wall. Still rolling your right hip to the right a little bit. So it's like your right hip is rolling away from your armpit. So your left knee might have to be fairly bent. Left hand stays on the wall, Micah. And then the more stretch you want, you can take the right hand a little higher and then straighten that left leg, create that extension. Rolling the right hip back, rolling the right ribs back. So it's a twisting extension. It may not happen easy in a long time, but just even moving that arm across like you are can do a lot for the shoulder, the neck, the back muscle into your mid back. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, bring the arms down, bring the legs down. Very good. Stand wide on your yoga mat, about 3.5 to 4 foot apart, please. Feet 3.5 to 4 foot apart. Turn your toes to point forward. Take both hands onto the floor in front of you. If you cannot reach the floor, it's appropriate to use blocks or chair to handle tight hamstring. Standing straddle stretch, Saripodottanasana. So the first few poses we've done have been about the legs being directly under the upper body to help lift. This pose is a forward fold where the upper body is past the front side of the thigh, but it still does a lot for the back and helps release the back to have the legs very strong, just like Tadasana or Padangusthasana. So make sure you look at each foot. They're both pointing the same direction. Should be forward, not off to the sides. And then feel in your foot when you're flexing the legs. Do you have more pressure on the inner parts of your foot, the big toe joint and the heel, the inner heel? And can you try and push down through the pinky toe joint, the outer edge of your foot and your outer heel more? This doesn't mean pushing your legs out farther, but it means pushing down with some muscular action through the outer foot. You can start to do this more by flexing the buttocks to help. One of the things that really helps create some new mobility in the hips is the engagement of the leg muscle, not the force of the joint. So regardless of your flexibility, soften your knees a little bit, just the tiniest little bit of bend, and see if you can make the muscles above your knee all the way up to your hip flex and stay flexed, even if you have to take a hand and touch them to kind of get them to work. And then keep it there. And then notice how quick it goes away. Because if that muscle isn't working, it's going to be your hip or low back. And this is common in those of us with injury, hypermobility, or just we've not done a lot of practice to keep those muscles engaged in this form. But that stability of keeping the leg strong is ultimately what lets your low back fold down into this pose. It's where you see people very mobile, able to fold very deep. Those of us that do this a lot are not pushing our chest down. We're pushing through our feet so hard, our hips lift and we let our spine hang. Now there's a lot of stretch, don't worry. That's going to be true regardless. Almost 20 years of doing this, I've still never found no stretch. I found a lot of mobility though. Couple deep breaths here. After all the standing poses, much stronger. This is a chance to kind of work the same parts that you did in Tadasana and Padangusthasana now with both legs. Very nice. Lean back ever so slightly so you have more weight in your legs than in your arms. Place both hands on your hips. Bring your body upright. Very nice. Very well done. Bring your feet together. You're going to use a wall or the back edge of a chair. So if you're using a wall, you're going to face the wall and place your hands on the wall at about the height of your hip, palms flat, and walk your feet back until you're in an L shape of downward dogs. Arms and back straight, feet under your hips. If you're using the back of a chair, you put your hands on top of the back of the chair and do that. Katie is doing a really good job of demoing, except her feet need to be about 6 inches forward. Thank you, Katie. Approximate feet about 6 inches forward, dear. Perfect. Now push your hips back. Chest down. Yes, lovely. Well done. Glenda, walk your feet back so your chest is hanging down towards the floor. It's a forward fold, dear. All the way down. Keep walking your feet back. You're all right. Modified downward dog. So this version of downward dog offers a couple different options for twists and things like that. We're going to explore that a little bit. But what I would like for everyone to start with is your feet about 4 or 5 inches apart. So regardless of what you have going on in your back, won't be an issue. Glenda, walk your feet back and move your hips back, dear. Let your chest hang all the way down to towards the floor. Yeah, just like that. You got it. Notice the tendency to want to push the head and shoulder joint down. Regardless of what your hands are on, whether the wall or the chair, push your hands firm into that surface. So you feel like you're stretching from your ribs through the whole palm. Sound familiar? Just like we did in Tadasana and Baddha Kolasana. There's an extension of the upper back and the side body to take the pressure off the joint and the neck ultimately. The work is to actually make the hamstrings will stretch over time, good for loosening your low back, but the work that's really beneficial out of this is between the shoulder blades. So your shoulder blades just below your neck, they extend about 6 to 8 inches if you're really tall, down the length of your back. We do not want to squeeze the shoulder joint to the neck, but we want to squeeze the shoulder blades together as much as you can. So it's not about pushing your shoulder joint down. It's about lifting your shoulder up slightly so your chest bone opens. So think about the uppermost part of your chest, right there at your collarbones, just before your neck, and stretch those wide so your shoulder blades come together and your upper sternum is what goes down farther towards the floor. This is challenging to learn to do because our upper backs are notoriously tight. If we sit at computers a lot or carried a lot of heavy things or even weightlift, it can make the upper back incredibly tight. But one of the first points of mobility we want to develop is the upper back, because if it's locked or tight, the lower back and hamstrings don't release as easily. So let the shoulders lift as you squeeze the shoulder blades together on your back, like you're trying to broaden the collarbone, the chest down. Still stretching the arms long, side body long. A few more seconds here and then we'll modify to something different. All right. If you're very tight in your hamstrings that your right hand cannot touch your left toes right now, give it a test. Keep your left hand on the wall, but just let your right arm come down and see if you can grab your left big toe. If you cannot, I would grab a yoga strap or a towel or something that you could use as an extension for your arm. All right. Left hand stays on your support of the chair or the wall. The arm, the side body stretched nice and long. Take your right hand down, and if you can grab your left big toe, do so. If you cannot, because tight whatevers, you can bend the knees a little bit, or you can use a yoga strap or blanket or other prop under the foot to grab a hold. So the challenge here, you're doing good, Glenda, you got it. The challenge here is to hold on with that right hand for dear life. Look to your left and think about, can you push your left arm into the wall and roll your left ribs up to the ceiling any degree, and bend your left elbow a little bit. You bend that left elbow to help rotate those ribs. So your left shoulder blade has to roll back into your upper back muscle. Ooh. Hamstrings will be talking to you, back muscle will be talking to you, but breathe. Take both hands back onto the wall. Left hand reaches down for right big toe. Left arm stays, right arm stays extended on the wall chair. Hold on with that that big toe with your left hand. Look to your right so you start to turn the spine. Remember, the neck is part of the spine, so if you rotate it, you kind of set the precedent for where the rest of it can go a little. And then push your right hand into the into the wall, bend your right elbow, roll it up. And it's about trying to move not just your head, but roll that right shoulder joint up towards the ceiling so that shoulder blade has to move into your back more. Bending the right elbow can help this happen over time. It's exhausting. One hip may be tighter than the other, one hamstring, low back. But all you're doing is using the strength of your upper body to start to rotate the spine without putting it all just on making the low back do the work. The low back has to twist, but it should not do all of the twist. Both hands on the wall. Keep your feet where they, change my, about to, yeah, keep your feet where they are, except bring them closer together. Bring your feet and thighs together. Bend your knees deeply so your hips move back and down. Do not let your hips go lower than your knees. Stretch both arms straight out, still reaching for the wall with both knees deeply bent. So Uttanasana, chair pose. Your fingers may come off the wall or the chair at this point, the deeper you bend the knee. Look up. Push down through the legs. Do not straighten them, but keep the legs strong. Squeeze them together. Lift your arms up as high as you can. Pick your chest up as high as you can. And then breathe. Instead of pushing up, tuck your hips under you. Tuck your buttock under, like your bottom of your glutes are pushing towards your knee joint. Lift your chest up higher. Backward bend the upper back. Draw your shoulder blades into your back. Look up. Stand up all the way as you exhale. Whew. Tadasana, thighs together still, arms up nice and tall. Don't come out. Still not done yet. Interlace your fingers. Turn your palms up to the ceiling. Baddha Kolasana. Take a breath. Lift your toes up, all 10 toes for a moment. Let your body weight redistribute. You've done a lot of work. Let the toes relax, but keep the body weight redistributed. Going through poses isn't just about checking in with your physical self. You know, is the pain there? Is it not there? What did the teacher do to me? What did they not help me with? And also just check in with your determination to stay in your work. One pose is not a cure. One pose is a part of a sequence of things that create an effect. Bring the arms down. All right, lay flat on your backs, please. Laying flat on your back, cross your right ankle over your left thigh, please. With your right ankle over your left thigh, bend the left knee, pick up the left foot and grab the back of your left leg with both hands and bend the elbows to draw the leg towards the body into a stretch. Bending your elbows and letting them go wide so you can relax the shoulder and neck. Remember, even though you're not in Tadasana, Tadasana was that broadening and opening of the shoulder and neck. And when we lay on our back, scrunching up in our shoulder and neck can put undue pressure on the lower, on the neck itself. It's how we flatten our necks too much. One of the ways. If this feels a good stretch to you and you don't want to go any further, that's fine. Further does not necessarily mean better. But for those that have a little more practice, if you stretch your left leg up, and then you might be able to grab your left foot with both hands. Not the calf, not the pants. Now, if you're still holding on to the back of your leg, you don't have to stretch your left leg straight. Just keep working the arms and working the hip this way. But if you stretch the left leg up in the air and you can't reach, you got to go for that left foot. But if you can't reach it, don't worry. It takes time because this is all about the low back and the hip muscles. You gave it a good grab there, Glinda. It was good go. I love it, everyone trying. It's wonderful. Experimentation is the lifeblood of yoga, you know. New poses are added or modified all the time. Like Warrior 2 we only know Warrior 2 to be about 100 years old. There's no records of it any older, that pose being older than that. So all of you experimenting in your yoga practice, what this is how yoga keeps going and modifies to help us where we are now. So I appreciate each and every one of you trying and modifying. I'm eternally grateful for it. Go ahead, switch your legs, please. So with left ankle over right thigh, draw the right leg to you. Grab the back of the leg with both hands. Stretch that hip. Remember, try to bend your elbows instead of shrugging your shoulders up to your neck to do the stretch because you don't want to put pressure on your neck over time. For those of you that want to try the next step of it, the right leg stretches up and then you reach for the foot. Go ahead, let the legs go back to the floor. Stretch both legs straight out from your body. Don't get too comfortable yet, not time for crashing. Bend your right knee to the body as close as you can. Grab the back of your right leg with both hands at the knee joint. Your left leg still laying on the floor. Back of the knee. Grab the back of your right knee. There you go, Pratima. Well done. Stretch the left leg nice and long. And it's more important to push the left leg down to the floor than it is how close you draw the right leg to your body. So even if you back off the right leg a lot and you can keep your left thigh on the floor and then just bending the arms, gently, knee bent, Micah, gently bringing that leg in, while the left thigh works harder to push down, can do more to release the sacral plate in the low back than all the other torque. As Mr. Angar would do, he would hold the right leg with his right hand, and his left hand would lay on his left thigh just to remind him to push that thigh down all the time. That extension of that leg. And this is a patience thing. Unwinding the tightness in the hip to the lower back means the straight leg, the left leg, has to stay fired and pressing down while the right leg relaxes and you pull it with the strength of your arm. Keep the left leg long. Take your left hand onto your right knee and twist, pulling the leg across to the left side, right leg to the left, all the way over, rolling onto the left hip, letting your right shoulder and ribs hang towards the floor, if not just lay on it perfectly. Wrong word, apologies. So as your right leg pulls across, still stretch your left leg long and press it, even though the hamstring is not on the floor, you press the leg down into the floor. So like Tadasana, like Padangusthasana, and all the standing poses we did, we're using the extension of the standing leg or the long leg to stabilize the left-right side of the hip and sacral plate. As you're here breathing, it's not about pulling your right knee down, but take a nice deep breath into the right rib cage. And instead of pushing your shoulder down, stretch your right ribs to the right more as you exhale. The ribs and shoulder will land on the floor eventually when it's time, when there's that mobility, not by force. All right, untwist. Stretch your right leg straight, press the right thigh down into the floor. Draw your left knee towards the body, trying to keep the right thigh as down as you can. Grab the back side of the leg and just draw it towards the chest. Let the leg relax and let the arm or arms do the greater work of moving your leg. And again, that right thigh firing, not pushing the knee down. The knee will go down when the muscle moves it down. So just keep that thigh flexed, training it to work. Take the left leg across to the right, rotate. And again, it's not about pushing the shoulders down or the ribs down, but take a breath into that left rib cage and stretch your lungs and ribs to the left so there's a rotation while the other arm holds the leg in place. Right leg still flexed, pushing down even though it's not the hamstring, but more the outer part of the leg and foot that touches the floor. Go ahead, untwist, stretch your legs out. Let the arms relax, let the eyes close for a few minutes. Swallow, take the tongue away from the roof of your mouth. As we just take a couple moments here. In this time of year to express gratitude. With each breath in, I'm grateful for something. And then exhale. It could be anything in your life, past, present, or something you can only imagine could help you. On another breath in, I am grateful for someone, past, present, someone that you can only dream of meeting. And you exhale. And then lastly, I am grateful for me. Grateful for yourself of the past, the present self, and the potential future self. The past for bringing you here, the present for being so you can have your time for yourself, and the potential future for all that you might accomplish, see, do, and learn. And for the next few moments, whatever one comes to mind, in any order, in any combination, I am grateful for something, exhale. I am grateful for someone, exhale. I am grateful for me. And rest for the next moment or two and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice.